The moment you realize you never have to exchange your time for survival again, the world doesn't explode into confetti. It just gets quiet. You're sitting on your balcony, the morning air is crisp, and the cup of coffee in your hands tastes exactly the same as it did when you were grinding through 80-hour work weeks. But something fundamental has shifted in the architecture of your reality. You pull up the spreadsheet, the one you have obsessed over for years, the one that tracked every single cent of your existence, and you see it. The line representing your passive returns has finally, definitively, crossed the line of your monthly living requirements. You have arrived at the ultimate destination of personal finance, yet the silence is deafening. You have reached what some call freedom capital, or the F-word threshold. It is the point where the necessity of labor is entirely decoupled from your ability to exist. For years, you lived in the trenches of extreme frugality. You were the person who walked past the shiny, depreciating assets, the person who opted for the secondhand vehicle, the person who viewed every purchase not as a commodity, but as a unit of time stolen from your future self. You were a soldier in a quiet war, fighting against the tide of lifestyle inflation that consumes everyone around you. Now, standing on the other side of that battle, you find that the victory is not a loud parade, but a profound internal stillness. This is the anticlimax that nobody warns you about. You spent a decade visualizing this day, imagining that the finish line would feel like a rush of adrenaline or a massive weight lifting off your chest. Instead, you feel a strange, disorienting void. For the first time in your adult life, you have no next milestone. The goal that provided the scaffolding for your daily decisions has vanished. Without the structure of the next promotion or the next savings target, you are forced to look at the blank canvas of your days. This is the danger zone where many high performers crumble. Not because they failed, but because they succeeded and didn't know who they were without the struggle. The transition from accumulation to preservation is not just a shift in accounting, it is a psychological metamorphosis. During the accumulation phase, your identity was tied to your output. You were a machine of efficiency, optimizing your tax strategies, reducing your overhead, and obsessively tracking your savings rate. Your brain was wired for the more efficiency, more growth, more security. Now, you must rewire your brain for the enough. This is arguably harder than the initial climb. Letting go of the scarcity mindset that kept you safe for years is an act of extreme mental discipline. You have to stop viewing your resources as something to be guarded like a dragon's hoard and start viewing them as the fuel for your actual life. If you haven't built your ideal life before reaching this point, you are in for a rude awakening. Many people treat independence as a get-out-of-jail-free card, assuming that once they are free from work, they will suddenly discover their hobbies, their passions, and their sense of purpose. This is a fallacy of the highest order. If you don't know who you are when you aren't working, you won't suddenly become a philosopher or an artist just because you have a bank balance. You will likely become bored, anxious, and deeply dissatisfied. The purpose of your frugality was never to hoard numbers. It was to buy the freedom to be human. If you forgot to practice being human while you were busy being a financial strategist, you will find that the freedom feels like a prison of your own making. Consider the psychological weight of stealth wealth. You have achieved this status through years of anonymity, keeping your progress hidden from the world to avoid the social pressures of status signaling. You have lived in a way that others might mistake for mediocrity, while internally managing a sophisticated, automated system of capital growth. Now, you have to decide how to inhabit this space. Do you reveal your status, or do you maintain the shroud of invisibility? Most who reach this level choose the latter. There is a profound power in being the person in the room who knows they could leave at any moment, while everyone else assumes you are just another cog in the machine. It keeps your interactions authentic and protects you from the parasitic expectations of those who view your success as a communal resource. But let's talk about the math of the final boss. Frugality is your greatest weapon, but it is also a double-edged sword. If you remain stuck in the frugal mindset long after the need for it has passed, you effectively become a miser. You become a person who has the resources to experience the world, but chooses to stay in the waiting room because the habit of saving is too deeply ingrained to break. You must learn to allocate your resources toward experiences that compound your happiness, not just your balance sheet. This is the art of spending, and it is just as vital as the art of saving. You must transition from a defensive posture to an offensive one, where your capital serves your values rather than just existing as a buffer against the unknown. Think about the mundane nature of your current routine. You likely still wake up at the same time. You likely still drink the same coffee. You still value your time more than your possessions. This is good. Do not let the sudden arrival of independence trick you into upgrading your lifestyle to match the expectations of society. The trap of lifestyle inflation is just as dangerous on the other side of independence as it is during the climb. If you start inflating your costs just because you can, you are essentially undoing the years of work you put into building your freedom. You are voluntarily walking back into the cage you spent years trying to escape. True independence is not about the ability to buy everything. It is about the ability to ignore everything you don't actually need. It is the ultimate rejection of the consumerist narrative that says your worth is tied to your consumption. When you realize that you have enough, you are suddenly free to pursue work that is meaningful rather than merely profitable. This is where the real game begins. You are no longer playing to survive, you are playing to contribute, to create, and to explore. The spreadsheet is no longer your master. It is merely a tool that sits quietly in the background, providing the foundation for your autonomy. Many of you will reach this point and find that you actually enjoy your work. This is the greatest surprise of all. When you don't have to work, work changes its nature. It becomes a choice. You can say no to the projects that drain you and yes to the people who inspire you. You can walk away from toxic environments without a second thought. This is the FU power, not the power to be rude or arrogant, but the power to be entirely, unapologetically yourself. You can finally prioritize integrity over income, and that is a luxury that very few people in the history of the world have ever been able to afford. However, you must be wary of the purpose vacuum when the grind stops, the existential questions start. Who are you without the label of your job? What do you stand for when you aren't fighting for financial survival? These are the questions that will define your next chapter. If you haven't cultivated interests, relationships, and a sense of community outside of your professional identity, the silence of your new life will feel oppressive. You need to fill that vacuum with something substantial, something that anchors you to the world in a way that money never could. Take a moment to look at your surroundings. The desk, the chair, the view from your window. None of these things have changed, but their meaning has. They are no longer the markers of a life under construction. They are the markers of a life finally lived on your own terms. You have successfully navigated the most difficult phase of your existence. You have outsmarted the systems designed to keep you in a cycle of endless consumption. You have built a fortress of independence that allows you to breathe, to think, and to exist without the constant hum of anxiety that defines the modern experience. Now, your responsibility is to ensure that this independence doesn't go to waste. Use it to be kind, to be curious, and to be present. Use it to help others understand that there is a different way to live. The world is obsessed with the climb, with the hustle, with the constant pursuit of more. By simply existing in your state of quiet, independent contentment, you are a living rebuttal to that narrative. You are proof that there is a destination worth reaching, and that the best way to get there is by prioritizing your own autonomy above the fleeting trends of status. Remember that the final boss of frugality wasn't the math, it wasn't the budget, it wasn't the sacrifice. The final boss was always the version of yourself that wanted to fit in. The version of yourself that felt the need to prove your worth through acquisition. By reaching this point, you have defeated that version of yourself. You have transcended the need for external validation. That is the true victory. The spreadsheet is just a record of your conquest. The real prize is the person you have become in the process of building it. As you move forward, keep your boundaries firm. The world will try to pull you back into the race. It will try to convince you that you need more, that you should be doing more, that you are missing out. Ignore it. You have already won the game. You don't need to play by their rules anymore. You don't need to chase the metrics that define success for everyone else. You have the luxury of defining your own metrics, and that is the most precious asset you possess. Guard it with the same intensity you used to guard your first few cents. So sit with that coffee for a while longer. Enjoy the silence. You have earned the right to do absolutely nothing if you choose, or to do everything that brings you joy. The pressure is gone. The deadline has passed. You are finally, truly in control of your own time. And in a world that is constantly trying to steal it from you, that is the greatest power you could ever hold. Welcome to the other side. It is quiet, it is calm, and it is yours to shape however you see fit. Do not take it for granted, and above all, do not give it away.